Tender and familiar as an old friend, Scotland appears to me. And from the slender windows of my room at the Glenburn Hotel, I shrug on the country like an old backdoor coat.
Bolts of lightning, pouring rain, crescent moon has taken itself far away to lay down. One more lazy dream.
My sister Lauren and I are on our feet by 5 a.m. to watch the sunrise. This means that the only other soul we passed on our way to the seawall was a man holding a tin of Brasso. He worked in the hotel and kindly warned me about metal polish staining my clothing. And then the pale yellow sun marked the beginning of my 23rd birthday, which I was to spend with my parents and sister on the Isle of Bute. For those unfamiliar with the Scottish Isles, Bute is one of the islands off of the mainland of Scotland, along the Firth of Clyde. With my birthday falling in the late hours of summertime, I always see the day as a sanctorium in which I'm responsible to worship the goodness of my year. And there's no finer chapel on earth than Bute. Along the shores, there are neat rows of big white houses planted in greens with unruly trunks. The mountains sit friendly and approachable on the low horizon. My parents so kindly booked us a trip atop the Blue Morning Chop, amongst the sailboats zipping along the coast. And on board, my mind struggles to ground itself as I take part in the view I spent all morning watching. I'd already felt that observing the water from within my ashlar stone room was indulgent enough. But now, like a woman with a parasol, I'm practically intruding. Proving my gratefulness for this divine beauty could subsume all of my life ambitions, forcing me to write about nothing but this view until the day that I die. And I have a feeling that I would still feel as though I'd failed at the task. Beyond the ferry off of Bute and back on the mainland, the sun burns Glasgow's flowing Clyde, and the day ends. It's strange to think that from this island dream forward, I'll never be younger than newly 23 again. My mum was born in Scotland, in Glasgow, but was eventually moved to Canada by her parents where she spent most of her life. The way things all worked out meant that I don't have much family where I live, near home. So I was given the gift of being taken by my parents alongside my sisters to Scotland in the summer sometimes to familiarize us with the country and with our relatives. The next day we drove down to Prestwick to stay at this lovely house. St. Andrew's House was beautiful, but vastly outshone by the beach that it rests on. By the time I'd kicked off my sandals, the sun had sunk again in the sky, and leaning against sun-bleached wood, buried in the sand, I felt as if my eyes couldn't take in the scenery of a fairy dream any longer. I laid trust in my camera and my mind to capture the majesty as best it could. Scenery of a fairy dream. That line is from a Robbie Burns poem. It stuck out to me because it's true. This is all simply a dream. The Scotland I visit is composed of many summers here, memories of summers lived out of stuffed suitcases and unfamiliar, strangely scented homes. As a young girl, I was only here on the beach for a sweet, memorable moment, and then I'd be back to my reality. And then I'd leave feeling like a stone shifted from its place in a garden bed, with the muddy side left up. But of course, for all the time that I've spent here, I would never call it a home. No, a fairy dream seems apt. Or that Scotland is an old friend whom I return to every few years to introduce myself, and in turn redefine who I assume myself to be. I recognize that I've only ever holidayed here. The reason Scotland appears to me as it does must be because it's all tangled up with my childish visions of the place, the misrememberings and fictions that younger me developed when she returned home. Over time, seeking refuge in this idea of Scotland in my mind, twisting the shorelines until they curve around me like a sandy hug. In all my fantasies, I picture myself living in a white house on the top of a hill, looking over the ocean, and all I do is stumble down to my garden path, bury my feet in the sand, and read as the world and I twirl.
Take me on a spree, I wanna get to know me, every little inch of me. Gentle while you stroke, when you picture me, every number count, love tokens. Where did all the swallows fly when I was 17? Caught up in a dream that became a nightmare. I've said it doesn't matter now, but it defeats me. Shackles around one's feet is not so neat.
A trip here for me means that there is never any rush to see it all, because with Scotland I know I'll be back. My trips are lazy and slow, quiet and personal. In my mind, I almost always write from the beaches of Scotland. That's the truth. I can only ever access that openness and freedom so fundamental to creation if I close my eyes first and conjure up an image. I force myself outside of my body. I see myself younger, more guarded, a stiff fringe and a wandering gaze, always in the same dark blue raincoat, reading the famous Five or having it read to me by my mum, and eating a sandwich made on a fresh roll and a packet of crisps. And I just feel grateful to be back for a moment, in this place that isn't a home but isn't quite a stranger.